U.S. airlines have canceled flights through early November due to the grounding of the Boeing jets. That's the earliest the 737 MAX planes could resume flying. Seth Kaplan is a transportation analyst for National Public Radio here in the United States. He explains the effect the testimony could have on this company.
This is why Boeing presumably is now advancing that $50 million. I think they understand that the world has sort of decided that Boeing does bear a lot of the responsibility here for what happened. And after sort of seemingly dragging their feet in the early stages, with everything from the grounding itself, I mean, the rest of the world had sort of done it. There was very little left to ground by the time Boeing agreed with the FAA to do it, to the weeks that followed, sort of not taking that responsibility, sort of probably choosing the lawyers over the PR people, doing what might have been the right legal strategy, not accepting blame, but just looked awful. Now finally taking this proactive step, paying out that money without that being imposed on them.
One of the other things, a point he made, both of the gentlemen who testified, there was an apology on camera. They've never apologized in person. They've never gotten a letter. They did hear from Ethiopian Airlines. You sense the outrage of these families. What's the role of Congress here? I mean, what can they do?
Well, what they're doing now is part of it. I mean, they're just getting the information out there. You're right, unlikely that you'd see criminal charges here, although who knows? I mean, so much of this is unprecedented, right? So we'll see. But the attitude in the U.S. tends to be, when you have crash investigations, kind of give broad immunity to people that just tell the truth, get all the information out there, make the industry safer, because in the end, that's what everybody's going for. Other parts of the world do handle it differently. You can have criminal charges. But yeah, Congress probably going to be more of what they're doing right now than necessarily any new regulations. Although over the years, we have seen Congress at times impose sometimes from an airline perspective, onerous regulations, but things that Congress has felt are necessary.
Michael Stumo, who's also lost his daughter in this crash, said that the safety culture was dissuaded. He talked about groupthink was encouraged by Boeing. We've heard how kind of there was, the FAA was kind of supposed to be overseeing this, but they kind of really were in charge of it. That's a real issue that needs to be addressed, right?
It is, and it's something that goes on not only in the airline industry, other industries too, where sometimes some of the best minds, some of the best scientists are working at the companies. And it can be hard for the government to compete for challenge. I mean, sure, there are plenty of competent people at the FAA too, but the question, was it something nefarious? Was it a deal between the FAA and Boeing, or was it just that in some cases the FAA had to rely on Boeing? The answer to that, I'm not sure that it matters all that much. The bottom line is we see what happened as a result, and I think you're going to see some big changes going
Speaking of big changes, Ryanair has ordered 100 737 MAX jets. They won't be called that, though. They'll be called 737-8200s. This obviously is going to be a marketing thing, too. I mean, are they going to rebrand this plane when it does come back?
Yeah, President Trump, of all people, called for a couple months ago the rebranding of the MAX. I don't think what mainly needs to change is perception. I think what mainly needs to change is reality. I think what mainly is going to change the public attitude toward this plane isn't calling it something else. It's going to be getting it back up in the air safely and having a long period without something going wrong. And that's when people will move on. Boeing, by the way, has said recently it's not going to change the name. So we'll see. Again, though, I think that's probably less important than just getting the plane up in the air flying safely.
They're still pushing to do that as quickly as possible. Seth, always great to see you. Thanks so much.
Likewise, Mike. Pleasure.